This review was commissioned by Patreon, and I'll be honest, I had some trouble finding the book because of the title. When you search for Phoenix Wright 3, this is not what comes up. The case in the book is called Turnabout Prophecy. Maybe they should have used that as a subtitle.
Argo Fump Book Review, Argo Fump Book Review.
Phoenix and Maya are at Fortune Circle, a building with 5 different fortune tellers. Phoenix gets stuck with the joke fortune tellers, like the palm reader who's terrified of touching people's hands, and the guy who predicts the future with ice cream. I see your future will be delicious. Maya goes to the Venusian, a woman who is dressed like a witch. The Venusian makes Maya remove all her electronics, then she forces Maya to grab her hand. She tells Maya to hold the hand and not let go. Then she puts a blindfold and headphones on Maya, so Maya can't see or hear anything. I'm honestly surprised she's not at all suspicious of this, considering how many times she's been framed for murder. Phoenix makes friends with a schoolgirl named Russie Clover. The Venusian has predicted Russie will be possessed by the Lord of Death, right before Russie visits Oracle Hecate. Wouldn't you know it? Hecate's fortune-telling also involves the client not being able to see or hear anything. This feels like a cover-up. I would be suspicious of this place even if this weren't a murder mystery. Specifically, Hecate forces Russie to put her arm through a hole in the wall, which she calls the portal to hell. Russie closes her eyes and chants the whole time. The next thing you know, Hecate is murdered and Russie is arrested. The Venusian blames the portal to hell and smashes a giant hole in the wall at this point, because she is apparently unaware that destroying a crime scene is illegal. Franziska von Karma helps investigate the crime scene. And by helps, I mean she mostly insults Phoenix and Maya while they investigate. Privately, Ice Cream Man tells Phoenix that he was watching the backside of the wall. He did not see Russie's arm go through the hole in the wall. Phoenix also learns that the rooms are all connected through a vent system. He purposely decides not to use this information in court, partially because he's an idiot, and mostly because it makes the trial more dramatic. But seriously, Phoenix purposely holds off on revealing this information so it can be the big cliffhanger at the end of Part 2. Russie's trial begins. Phoenix says his client is innocent because she didn't leave fingerprints on the murder weapon. Franziska totally ignores this valid argument and says Russie must be the culprit because the room was locked. Phoenix argues Russie is innocent because she didn't get any blood on her, besides her hand. Franziska argues the culprit wore a raincoat to avoid blood splatter. Phoenix says this contradicts Franziska's earlier claim that the crime wasn't premeditated, and again, she totally ignores this valid argument with a, whatever, your point doesn't matter, Russie has to be the culprit because the room was locked. Phoenix finally reveals the culprit could have entered through the vent system, and he feels good about himself, until it's quickly pointed out that the vent system was closed that day. Oops. When Maya mentions she had red ink on her hands at the time of the murder, Phoenix solves the mystery. Maya thought she was holding the Venusian's hand, but she was actually holding Russie's hand. That's why Russie's hand didn't go through the wall, and how Russie got red liquid on her one hand. It's kind of amazing nobody noticed her hand was covered in ink, not blood. The Venusian normally does this hand trick as a distraction so she can go through her clients' phones. She looks up all their personal info, then she pretends to be psychic when she tells their personal info back to them. I'm surprised this plan works. Don't any of these people lock their phones with a password? To be fair, the book says she also goes through people's wallets, but you don't really need to see someone's driver's license to know their height, general age, and home state. That's not the weird thing, though. The weird thing is that whenever the Venusian does the hand trick, she strips out of her witch costume and walks around in a swimsuit. We even get a few pictures of her in a swimsuit committing murder. Could we maybe not interrupt the big revelation with beach babes? The Venusian and the victim were secretly working together. She killed the victim because the victim got greedy and tried to cut her out. She confesses to the murder, and everyone goes to have ice cream with Miles Edgeworth. The end. Post-book follow-up. This book is split up into 3 parts, and I imagine all the parts are sold separately because parts 2 and 3 both start with recap sections. I'm glad they were all joined together for this book, because they're supposed to be read together. If this book only contained the first two parts of the story, I would be giving it a much harsher review. I mention this because I'm told this is the only book of the manga series that doesn't split up the story among multiple books. I don't like the sound of that. The artwork is good, although I was a little turned off by the start of the book, where there are many panels of characters screaming. Yes, it makes sense for a visual novel to have visual gags, but it was a bit much. I like the design for the defendant and the ice cream man, but the culprit's design seems to be an excuse for swimsuit shots. I was surprised at how attractive Franziska von Karma was. She constantly makes cute faces, which is weird to say because she's constantly yelling at Phoenix. Overall, I'd say the book is good for what it is, a condensed Phoenix Wright case in picture form. The trial takes up half the book, but I feel like if this was a game, the trial would have been much, much longer. It certainly does feel like a trial you'd see in one of the games, though, definitely a case 3 in the original trilogy. Everything was thought out ahead of time, and all the little clues are there, including a few clues which flew under the radar as jokes. I give Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Volume 3 a 6 out of 10.